So, Troy, this M research and M scale seem to encompass and cover, all bases. I mean, it seems to include almost everybody. So you bring up these MX channels. What are the MX channels?
In order to be able to do kind of a comprehensive program, we've rolled out things like this in the past. And one of the problems in general is that as things are comprehensive and communicating to lots of different stakeholders or lots of different people, one of the things that happens very quickly is that the users or the people, the whole reason or the whole project was created for, kind of get left behind for the sake of creating a project. And so being wary of that and to safeguard against that, in project terminology, they're called organics, the people or the organic people. Well, what are you doing? Because now your project doesn't include them. So how is it supposed to help anybody? Channels is an idea that we came up with where we wanted the project to be smart enough to meet people where they were at. So I know we always want other people to put on our hat and to see it from our perspective, but in the reality is that doesn't ever happen. We can talk about it, we can demand it, but it never really does, and it especially doesn't happen when we want somebody to change the way they're thinking. So we intentionally developed the program to interact with patients like a patient needs to be interacted with. The way a cultivator needs to be interacted with. It's the same data, right? I mean, it's plant data, it's human data, it's legal data. But everybody looks at this from a different perspective, especially, say legislative decision makers. One of the reasons why it's very important to roll up the information to them is because they have limited time. They don't really want to understand the subject at this point, but they have to have a solution, and they've got to figure out what to do with what's in front of them. So a patient channel allows the patients to communicate with the project as a patient. But we collect that information knowing full well we're going to turn around and use that with a cultivator, use that with a doctor, use that with a legislative professional, use that with a researcher, and vice versa. So it's really about vantage. It's really about understanding that you need to talk to patients like patients need to be talked to and communicate with them in a way that makes sense to them. The benefits need to be something that's tangible to them. Cultivators, right, they need to understand where they're at and what they can do and how they can best benefit, because it's a lot of effort and it needs to be directed in a positive way, and they need to get credit for what they're doing. Physicians need to know what's going on. They need to be able to understand the intentions and the ins and the outs, so they can basically oversee that and provide the metrics that say yes, it's working or not, and really the navigation of the program. And then legislative decision makers really need to know what's going on and how is it impacting. How do I know this is medical? How do I know they're good actors? Who do I trust? What information can I access that will help my decision making? But just from that, we're almost asking any one person to be in an impossible amount of hats.
So are these channels one-way communication?
They can't be. They absolutely have to be, dual communication. It's how we take data in, and it's how we give data out. It's how we listen, and it's how we explain. It's how we demonstrate, and it's how we collect. It has to be a two-way street. It just happens to be kind of like a network of two-way streets. But when you're on that street, we're trying to keep things relevant or congruent to the person that we're interacting. We call them stakeholders.
So does all this communication have to travel through the program or the project, or can it happen between these different channels that you're speaking of?
This is the beautiful thing is that obviously from a system standpoint, it'd be awesome if people only did one thing. They don't. So what we developed is some commonalities within each channel that allows a patient and a cultivator just to have a conversation. You don't have to be officially enrolled and have your M-Scale project button and your certificate in front of you while you're talking about the project. We developed the project to create a commonality so that if you do just need to have that conversation with your doctor, with your cultivator, with your elected official, with your whoever, your family, that they can then understand what you're talking about. So it's more like flow. We're trying to create a momentum towards a common benefit, a common goal, a common intelligence. But we know that people are going to go between each other because there's a lot of people who are patients and growers. A physician who knows a caregiver, a legislative lawmaker who family member is a patient. Well, they don't have to come and to an M scale authorized site, and now you can talk about this as a medicine. But we do need to collect the data in a way that can be usable.